So hi and welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be showing you the process of course washing this little Skoda Fabia. I'm going to be applying some paint protection as always, and a little bit different on this one, I'll be doing some headlight restoration because actually this car came to me last year and it's a relative's car and I really wanted to do the headlights when I saw it then but just didn't have time. In terms of traffic film and dirt, nothing horrendous really. The car had been cleaned around a couple of months ago and it isn't driven too often, so a little bit of splash mud, a little bit of traffic film but nothing too difficult to deal with. The wheels were quite dirty, there's a lot of brake dust and the tyres in particular needed a good clean. So I started the process on the wheels first, as there was no point rinsing this car down first and working on any of the paintwork because it was a reasonably warm day when I cleaned this, so it would have just evaporated anyway and there wouldn't have been too much point. So I pressure washed the wheels down. Apologies that I flicked a load of water onto the camera at this stage, don't worry, I did notice it and clean it. But first, going in with the tyres, I use Autocon's Rebound, which I don't think I've featured on the channel yet in terms of a full car sort of transformation. So I worked it in here. It says to only use a couple of sprays per tyre, so I used a couple on the tyre itself, sort of 2 or 3, and then some on the brush, just to make sure that there was a bit of product there. So I did one pass first and you could see that the tyres did turn pretty dirty. There was definitely a lot being stripped off. I decided actually to go with 3 passes of this in the end, which is typically what I go for when I use an all-purpose cleaner. I'm not sure whether potentially it would have needed more on an all-purpose cleaner with this tyre. I'm going to do some more testing with it to see how I like it in compared to all-purpose cleaners. But I did use 3 passes here before I was happy with what colour the foam was turning. Then I moved on to the arches, and for this I used my classic brush, as thankfully these arches were plastic, which was brilliant, definitely a bit of a change from ones I've been cleaning recently, and I used 10% mixture of green start. Next onto the alloys themselves, so for these I used Breakthrough by High Definition Detail, and I used this in the IK foamer. Might have potentially used a little bit too much here. I just used 25ml into 500ml mixture of water, and the foam was really quite thick and provided quite a lot of lubrication and definitely more than enough cleaning power. So I worked that in using just one of these chenille microfiber wash mitts, and I also used a brush just to get to some of the areas where I was concerned that the mitt itself might not have reached, and also just to provide a little bit more agitation on some of the areas where the brake dust was quite stubborn. So just a quick reminder, if you are enjoying the video so far, it would be brilliant if you could hit that like button. It really does help to support the channel, and let me know what videos you like as well. So once I'd cleaned the alloy faces, I then moved on to the barrels and used my SGCB UK brush for this. So this is that kind of nylon style bristle one. The finish isn't too delicate on these, so I wasn't worried about using something other than microfiber or those kind of wool style ones. This was fine, and the barrels really hadn't been cleaned in a long time, so I needed something that was going to provide a decent level of agitation. So the owner had painted the calipers as well, so I thought it'd be good to try and get to them as much as possible. Obviously they were quite covered, so it was a little bit difficult. I could manage to get to most of the areas though and give them a good clean, using this brush from the Cosray's car box, and of course a little bit of that shampoo as well, just to make sure that those didn't spoil the overall look of the car and they looked fresh as well. So once I dealt with all the wheels, I'd then move back onto paintwork. As I said before, it was a reasonably warm day when I was doing this, so I had to work fairly quickly. So I gave the car a good rinse down. Of course this is going to help cool down the panels and also prevent any products that I'm going to apply from drying on there, just to give it a little bit better dwell time really. And you can see here that the paintwork's very flat. There's no protection on it at the moment, so of course going to be sorting it out later, making sure we can get the most out of the finish on this car. So the snow foam of choice today was this one by Carchem. So this is their pre-soak plus snow foam. So it's an alkaline snow foam as far as I'm aware, and it's basically a sort of more heavy duty of one of the other snow foams, which I think is just called pre-soak. So it has a decent level of cleaning ability. From when I've used it, it's not totally blown me away, and I wouldn't rate it as highly as some of the others out there that I've tried, sort of built Hamburg Auto Foam and things like that. However, for this car, because there really wasn't that much traffic foam to deal with, I thought it'd be a good one to go for. I used a mixture of 100ml into a 1 litre foam cannon, and that provided me with enough sort of thickness and dwell time, as I thought it'd be a good idea to use a snow foam that was quite thick on this car, just to give me enough time to sort out my buckets before risking any of the products actually drying on the panels. So it was around a 10-minute dwell time I managed to get away with here before most of the snow foam had slipped off the surface and needed pressure washing away before drying out. Now onto the contact wash, and for this I used Garage Therapy Car Shampoo, which I don't think I've used on a transformation for quite a while. This is a really nice shampoo, and it is definitely one of my favourites. It's really slick, you don't need much of it at all, so in a 20 litre bucket I normally go for around 10ml, I find perfectly fine, to get a good level of suds going and yeah, just provide a lot of slickness to make the process much safer. The stability of it's really good as well, so you don't need to kind of foam it back up in your bucket, it lasts throughout the entire wash process. Scent wise, it's kind of a fresh sort of berry scent in my opinion, which is a nice sort of refreshing one to use, and it is an enjoyable product. You can also apply this in a foam cannon and it foams up really well, and then you can go over with your mitts. But here I just used it of course in the bucket today, as I thought a foam cannon application would have risked the product drying out before I had a chance to go around with my mitts. So of course, as always, I used my trusty GB detailing brush on some of the badge work, topped up with that shampoo to make sure there was enough cleaning power, and then I used my stiffer Because Race Car box brush on some of the trim, so particularly the front grille and the rubbers around the windows. Then I rinsed it off camera as I was in a bit of a rush not to let anything dry on there, and then dried it using this towel from County Detailing. So now onto the headlights, and for this I used Scholl S17 and S40, which is a compound and polish, and I used a Chemical Guys Hexlogic orange pad, which is one of the kind of stiffer ones. Now I'm aware that using sandpaper is a preferred option and would have got me better results here. Unfortunately, I didn't have any sandpaper, and I found out that this car was coming around 20 minutes before it arrived, so I thought that this was my best option. I don't really have much experience dealing with headlights, to be honest, and this was, I think, the second one I've done. But I did actually get pretty good results here. They definitely weren't perfect, but there was a really big improvement, and I think that they no longer really let down the car. Of course, they probably could have done with a bit more using sandpaper, but I achieved what I wanted to do here and gave them a good refresh, and hopefully you can see the transformation here looks pretty good. So I applied a little bit of protection, not sure whether this was worth doing, but I used Infinity Wax Graphene on this, just applied it, left it for a couple of minutes and buffed it off. I'm not sure whether this makes a massive difference, and I apologise for the light spot here. I managed to get some product on the camera when I was washing the car, and yeah, apologies for that. So here I am moving on to the wax stage. So for this one I'm using something a little bit different to what I would normally use when most people bring the cars round, and I'm using this R222, which is more of a show wax, so it's not aimed to give you durability. If I'm honest, it'll only last a few weeks, possibly a month, depending on whether it's washed in between. If it's washed with alkaline chemicals in between, it's probably going to be gone entirely. But what I wanted to do here was get the paintwork looking as nice as possible, and without going into machine polishing and applying glazes, this was my best option. And also what's good about this is that you can apply it in the sun like I am here and run into no issues. It's a pretty foolproof wax to apply. I gave it just a few minutes to haze over before doing the finger swipe test, and even when I'd left it on a little bit longer than that, when I accidentally left it on for sort of 15 minutes for one panel I completely forgot about, it buffed off effortlessly. So yeah, in terms of application and finish, this is a fantastic wax to go for. If you're looking for durability, then it's not going to fit the bill for you. So the owner of this car really wanted to take some nice photos of it for when he eventually comes to sell it, potentially quite soon, so he wanted to get some recent photos. And I thought that this would be a good wax to use because, yeah, as I said, it's just going to get you the best visual enhancement and was the safest option I had to use in the sun. So now onto the trim and tyres. So here I'm using Tyre Glaze Formula, which is one by one of the sister brands of Carchem. So it's one that I picked up in a mystery box a while ago, and I've used this recently as well in another video, but I really like this on trim. It brings back that darkened look, but it doesn't leave a glossy finish. So I think it's really good to refresh the plastics and the rubbers without sort of making them look kind of fake really. And then for the tyres, I went for GB Detailing's Onyx, which was actually the tyre dressing that I used on this car last year when I cleaned it then, and it was the first time I'd used it then. I remember it looking pretty good on these tyres, so I thought, why not bring it back out here? And you can see probably the clumsiest tyre dressing application anyone's ever done. Managed to drop the foam applicator twice within about 30 seconds, so really good skills there. But you can see the finish here. It leaves a really sort of nice, quite glossy finish, but nothing that's extremely distracting. And I thought it did a really good job on these tyres and helped to complete the overall look of the vehicle. And then I wanted to tidy up a couple of water spots that had been left on the glass from me not being quick enough with my drying towel. So here I used the Pyramid Car Care one, as it has quite a long work time, so it was a good one to use in the sun. So now you can see the overall look of the car, and I was really pleased with how this came out. The headlights looked a lot better, so we're no longer letting down the vehicle. The tyres look good, the wheels of course were a lot cleaner, and I think that the wax really made that colour look great as well. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, it'd be fantastic if you could give it a like. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.